Okay, Erev Tov, good evening, everyone. We continue on our journey on Masechet Rosh Hashanah. We are on Daf Daled Amud Aleph 4A1. It's the last break on the right side, 4A1. Just a reminder of where we had left off last time to give us a running start. Last time we spoke about David HaMelech's sleep schedule. Essentially, we spoke about David HaMelech's sleep schedule, and we said that he had an alarm clock. His alarm clock. By the way, I was meaning to look at it. I haven't looked at it. Do the iPhone? Is there a harp sound on the iPhone? If it is, for sure there is, right? So you got to change it to that, and then you can become like David HaMelech. Yeah, wake up the same way. You have to exactly. So we have David HaMelech would wake up at midnight, and what the Gemara explains to us is when he would wake up at midnight, he would be studying Torah from midnight until dawn. And then dawn, people would barge into his room and say, let's go, there's no money, we have to fight a war. That's when his cabinet meetings began. We spoke a lot about that at length. And we spoke about whether he knew when midnight was or midnight wasn't, okay? But one thing that comes up from this whole discussion is that he wakes up at midnight. And we had spoken about this in the past, that kings in general, what time do they wake up?
9, 10 o'clock.
9, 10 o'clock. Very good. Well, and where you get to that is the way the coming up Mishnah will tell us is that kings, it's going to be relevant for when we talk about Shema of the morning. We're still talking about Shema of the night. When we talk about Shema in the morning, you have to say Shema when people wake up. So the Gemara is going to say, well, when do people wake up? And it says, well, kings are the latest ones that wake up. They're waking up at the end of the third hour of the day. So David HaMelech, now what we're going to see is going to start highlighting a difference between him and other kings. That's it. That's what, wind chimes?
It says chimes.
Chimes. Okay, it's not really the same thing, but it's good. I'm sure David HaMelech was better. Okay, Raman. Thank you.
Leave it on the whole class.
Yeah, no, don't do that. Then we'll end the class early. Okay, so that helped me time to go to sleep. So here we go. We are now going to again. I want to orient you because we're still on a tangent. We are still talking about David HaMelech sleeping, and the fact that when he was sleeping, waking up so early, there's some discussions we have based on that. And then once we conclude that discussion of David HaMelech, we're going to go back to explaining our Mishnah. Okay, so here we are. We're on Daf Daled Amud Aleph 4A1 in the art scroll. It's the break on the right, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So here we are. The David Shameran Nafshi Ki Chasid Ani. There is a pasuk in Tehillim. In fact, this is a pasuk that's part of our tefillah every day. Let me show you. If you look at the screen, I'm showing you the Sidur of the Beit Yaakov. Let me just make this bigger. You guys know Beit Yaakov. This is where we do the shiurs shel yom. It's after Ashrei Uval Etzion in the morning. The next thing is the shiurs shel yom. So the way it starts off is with this tefillah David. Right? You familiar with it? Tefillah David. It's a prayer for David. Now he says in this line, Shamera nafshi, God, protect my life, protect me, ki chasid ani, because I am a chasid. What does it mean to be chasid? It means someone who is exceedingly pious. So David HaMelech is saying, God, you need to protect me because I'm a very righteous man. And then what the Gemara is saying is, this isn't in the spirit of what you would expect from David HaMelech. David HaMelech was a very humble person. What he's saying is that he views himself as someone who's always been humble. He's not someone to say, I am a righteous person. So the Gemara is bothered by this, and there's two opinions as to why he's saying this. Okay? So let's go ahead and read it. This is a prayer of David. Keep my soul, meaning protect my soul, for I am pious. Levi and Rabbi Yitzchak are bothered by the fact that David HaMelech in his prayer says, Hashem, I'm so pious, I'm so righteous. What are you talking about? Why do you speak like that? Chad Amar, one of them says, let me explain to you what he was actually saying. Kach Amar David Lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is what David was saying in front of Hashem, and this is why he said he's pious. Ribono shel olam, oh God, lo chasidani, aren't I very pious? Shekol malchei mizrach u'ma'arav yeshanim ad shalosh sha'ot, because all of the kings of the east and the west, and all of the kings of the world, they sleep until the end of the third hour. V'ani chatzot laila akum nohodot lecha, I get up at midnight. So what is he saying? He's not saying that God, I am righteous and therefore you owe me something. What he's saying is, God, I'm pushing myself to do things, to be righteous, to be pious, and in order to do that, I'm not sleeping. So I need you to protect me. In other words, what he's asking for Hashem, please protect me to keep my body healthy. There's a lot of discussion about how much you're supposed to sleep every night, right? The Rambam famously says 8 hours. In general, if you do this studying, they say 8.5 hours, 6 to 8 hours. Apparently, too much sleep actually could lead to negative effects on your body. Too little sleep could lead to negative effects. But some people are okay with 4 hours, 5 hours. Everybody is different. You got to do what you have to do. But what David HaMelech is doing is he's not sleeping. We spoke about this. He's sleeping like a horse. When he wakes up at midnight, he's not sleeping much. So what he's saying is he's turning this to Hashem. He's saying, Hashem, what do I do when I wake up? I wake up and I study Torah. So if other people are sleeping so much and I'm pushing myself, then I'm asking for you, Hashem, to take care of me. Shamera nafshi ki chasidani. Watch me and protect me because I'm doing this in order to be righteous. So it's not that he's saying I am a righteous person and therefore I am entitled to blessing. Is that what he's saying? Is I'm attempting to do things correctly and I need your help to keep me healthy so I could continue to do this, which is very important. Yeah, question?
See, the translator is devout.
Yeah.
Devout sounds much more relevant to what you're saying.
Devout, you're saying, is a better translation. Why?
You're saying he's asking Hashem to protect him because he's
devoted.
Looking up to Hashem.
Very good.
Being pious is not really doesn't fit with that.
Very good, very good. So Mr. Andy Basali here is saying like you maybe a better translation for Chassid would be devout in the sense that he is devoted to Hashem. Hashem, protect me because I'm devoted to you. I'm dedicating my life to you. That's probably a better translation based on how the Gemara is explaining it here. He's not saying, God, I'm righteous, I deserve something. He's saying, God, I'm doing this for you. So now, why is this so important? Very, very good idea. I'm devout. So why is this important? The answer is because you're learning here how to pray. You're learning from Hashem, from David HaMelech, how to pray. If you say, Hashem, I want to wake up and I want to go to Shacharit in the morning. Hashem, I want to give tzedakah. Hashem, I want to be able to raise my children in a way where I send them to yeshiva. So he's teaching you how to pray. He's saying, Ribono shel olam, give me money, let me be successful in my business. Why? Because chasidani, I am devoted to you. I'm giving my children to yeshiva so they could study. I am giving maaser. I'm giving 10%. I'm giving more than 10% to charity. So there's nothing wrong with saying that I'm devoted to you, as you said very nicely. And because of that, give me more. There's nothing wrong with that. The opposite, David HaMelech is doing it, understanding that the blessing is going to come from him. And in order to do this mitzvah, he's asking Hashem, please enable me to continue doing the mitzvah. Okay? So that is the first opinion. Remember, the way it started off is saying Levi Rabbi Yitzchak. It's a machloket between Levi and Rabbi Yitzchak, what David HaMelech was saying. Chad Amar, one of them say this, meaning we don't know which opinion said what, but we know one of these two opinions explains when David says that he's a chassid, he's talking about the fact that he's sleep deprived. And he's asking for God, give me the energy to keep going while I'm sleep deprived. The other one understands this pasuk a little bit differently, okay? And we're going to do a little bit of a very, very surface of Hilchot Nidah. For the married gentlemen, you know how there is a law of Nidah, and there's times of the month when a man and woman cannot be together, and there are times of the month when they can. And sometimes it's questionable. Sometimes a woman has some sort of a discharge or something that you're not sure if this is problematic or not, if this is considered dam nidah or not. So what are you supposed to do? You have to figure it out. You have to ask. So look at what David HaMelech says here. Unbelievable. Ve'idach, according to the other opinion, Kach amar David lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is what David HaMelech was saying in front of Hashem. Ribono shel olam. Oh God, lo chasidani. Aren't I devoted to you? Aren't I devout? Aren't I pious? Shekol malchei mizrach u'ma'arav yoshvim agodot b'chodam. All the other kings are just sitting, hanging out, chilling in their groups. They're sitting in their groups having fun. What are the kings doing? They're just having fun the whole time. Va'ani, but I, yadai meluchlachot. My hands are dirty. Bedam, with blood. Uveshafir, uveshilya. let's see how they translate these things, with a fetus, an afterbirth, and a placenta. So, kedei letaher isha leba'ala, in order to purify and permit a woman to her husband. What he's saying is that he is very much answering questions about, let's say a woman has some sort of is bleeding, and you don't know, is that a blood that would make them prohibited to each other or not? Because not all blood is would make someone a nidah. So he's getting his hands dirty. Shafir, what is shafir? I don't even like thinking about these things, but let's say there's a miscarriage. Now, depending on how early the miscarriage is, it could be considered tum'ah or not. Okay, it could be considered. If it's more formed of a fetus, you could see certain things, then it would have a certain level of tum'ah. It's not relevant for us, but when we get to Hilchot Nidah, we could discuss these topics more at length. But the point is that someone has to examine, and the person who's going to examine is not doing this from afar, it's getting their hands dirty. Shilya is the placenta, same concept. Seeing different things of afterbirth, understanding is the woman tameh or not. And what he's saying is like, I have no problem rolling up my sleeves, getting my hands dirty to kidei letaher isha leba'ala, to have a woman and man to be together, to answer these questions. What are the other kings doing? They're just sitting, relaxing, they're distancing themselves from their constituents. What am I doing? I'm getting involved with the micro of the micro to help one couple. So what is he saying? He's saying, look, when you become the king of Israel, and I could speak about this in other contexts also. When you become the king of Israel, it's got to come to a point where you say, like, look, I can't deal with the individual questions. Like, I'm going to deal with the higher level things. The smaller level things you give to someone else. But David HaMelech is saying how if I have to, I'm willing to. If I have to deal with certain questions, certain challenges, I'm willing to do it. And so what David HaMelech is saying, but that needs more energy. I could give you an example for myself. Okay, and this is actually saying something negative about myself. When maybe I was younger and I would want to study Torah with someone, I would do one-on-ones with people. I would do one-on-ones with people all the time. But as I grow older and the demand becomes more, I try to have class settings. Well, that doesn't mean I'm not doing one-on-ones, but I'm shifting more toward the class setting. Why? It's just like you have to, if you want to do one-on-one, then it's like every hour is one person, so you could only learn with one person per hour. Now you have a shiur, you can learn with more. So it's a decision that I make over time, is that the one-on-ones you have to minimize and you start increasing the capacity. You stop doing things for smaller crowds and bigger crowds. But David HaMelech, what he's saying is that, but if someone needs me, I'm ready. If I have to deal with someone's situation, their questions, their personal home, I'm there. Okay, that takes time. It takes energy. It takes effort. So, Ribbono Shel Olam, I need your help. I need your help to have the energy to continue doing this. So it's not that he's saying, Hashem, you owe me something. The opposite. He's saying, Hashem, I want to continue doing good work. Help me, support me to continue doing good work. Okay? Now, one last thing I'll just mention on this. The word that's used here is kidei litaher isha leba'ala. In order to permit, to purify, to allow for them to be together, which is something very important. In the laws of Nidah, the job of the rabbi is to try very hard to get them to be together. Normally you ask, is this kosher or not? Okay, you're not sure, you'd be a little bit strict. You have a question about this, then okay, you'd be a little bit strict. But when it comes to this, your bias should be in order to help get them together. You don't want to be, you want to be lenient within the he wasn't breaking halacha, but his focus was kedei letaher. I'm trying to get them to be together, right? Because it's one of the jobs, one of the responsibility is you want them to be together b'tahara in a permitted kosher ways. Because if not, either they're going to be together in not permitted ways, or they're not going to be together, which also is another. You want them to be able to have children, to be together, to have each other's support, okay, etc. But now he goes and he takes it a step further, okay? Velo od, again, we're going to learn about his humility. Anything that I do, anytime that I tell someone something as a rabbi, for example, ani nimlach Mephiboshet Rabbi. I will then consult with my rabbi. David HaMelech had a rabbi. After he makes his ruling, he goes and he speaks with his rabbi named Mephiboshet. Ve'omer lo, and I say to him, Mephiboshet Rabbi, my rabbi Mephiboshet, Yafeh danti. Did I judge this the right way, correctly? Yafeh chiyavti, yafeh zikiti. Did I chiyavti is to convict, to charge, correct. Like if you're talking about like a monetary case. Did I charge the person correctly? Did I convict them? Did I acquit them correctly? Yafeh tiharti, yafeh timeti. Did I make the person tahor permitted in a permitted way? Was I correct? Was I correct when I made the person impure? Velo boshti, and I was never embarrassed of asking for someone to audit my work. That's what he's saying. He's saying I would ask the question. The situation would come with me. I have to give an answer. I give an answer. I gave an answer. Then afterwards, I went and I made sure that I got the right answer. How so? I went to him and I said, "Look, this is the case. This is what I said. Was it correct or not?" Okay, Elon, you had a question? Why wouldn't he? Okay, so why the question Elon's asking is why not consult him before? The answer is because maybe Moshe wasn't at it in his left pocket. It was someone that afterwards he would have to. David HaMelech would have to deal with the cases. See, nowadays, if someone has a question, you say, "Let me call you back," or "Let me text you back." Give me your number, I'll call you back. It wasn't like that, right? So someone has a question, someone comes from afar, they have a question for you. I'm not going to see Mephiboshet for another 3 days. I give him an answer. But then afterwards, I'll go and I'll see and I'll ask, did I make the right decision? If I made a mistake, you live and you learn. So what he says is that I was never trying to cover anything up. So I would get myself involved with the details. And then after I would give an answer, I would then go and ask people to review my work to tell me was it correct or not. And not people. He would ask his rabbi, Mephiboshet, Velo boshti, and I was never embarrassed. Amar Rabbi Yoshua Beredi Rav Idi. Rabbi Yoshua is asking a question. Maikra, what pasuk in the Nevi'im, or really in Tehillim, what pasuk gives us this indication that David HaMelech would go ask from Mephiboshet to review his work? V'adabera be'edotecha. It's a pasuk in Kuf Yutet 119, chapter 119 of Tehillim. I will speak about your words, neged melachim, in front of kings, and I will not be ashamed. Kings here, Rashi explained, the rabbi of a king gets the title of a king. So when Mephiboshet is the rabbi of the king, he gets the title of the king. So he says, I would speak divrei Torah in front of him, and I wouldn't be embarrassed. I wouldn't try to cover up for myself. You know, sometimes you make a mistake, and then you have someone who is your superior. You don't come and you throw everything out there. But he says here, I would speak your words in front of kings, and I wasn't embarrassed. Now, that's not what the simple meaning of the text is. The simple meaning of the text is as a king, when he would see other kings, he would always speak divrei Torah. Like, he wasn't embarrassed. This is like going to the United Nations and saying divrei Torah in front of everyone. You know, I'm in front of Neged Melachim, and I'm going to stand up and say, Adonai oz na'amo yitena, Adonai yivarech et emo b'shalom. Say a pasuk in front of everyone, that type of thing. So that's what the simple meaning of this line is, where he says, I speak your words in front of kings and I'm not embarrassed. But secondary meaning that Rabbi Yitzchak is telling us is I speak my words in front of my rabbi, I tell him everything, and I'm not embarrassed if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm ready to hear it. I'm not embarrassed of being wrong. I'm not going to cover myself up. Now, step further, let's talk about his rabbi, Mephiboshet. Tana, lo Mephiboshet Shemo. Really, his name was not Mephiboshet. Ela Ishboshet Shemo. His name was actually Ishboshet. And there's another opinion, I believe Rashi says, rather, Eshbaal Shemo. His name was something else. Different versions of what his real name was, but what the Gemara is saying is that Mephiboshet wasn't his real name. Okay? So this is like a classic case of what you call an alias. You know what an alias is? An AKA, also known as, right? Also known as. So this rabbi of his was known by David HaMelech as Mephiboshet. Even though that wasn't his real name, he was known as Mephiboshet. So the Gemara says, why was that his AKA? Why was that his alias? Why was he known as Mephiboshet? Because look at the words. Shehaya mebayesh pene David bahalacha. He would embarrass the face of David in halacha. Mipi, from his mouth, boshet is embarrassment. Boshet is embarrassment. Mipi means from his mouth. So from his mouth, David HaMelech will get embarrassed. So in other words, he would call him the one that embarrasses me. But what David HaMelech is saying is not in a negative way. He's saying I'm not embarrassed at the fact that I'm getting embarrassed, because I want to make sure I'm doing everything correctly. David HaMelech is now talking about the integrity that he has, the honesty that he has, right? Again, I'm willing to get involved with one woman has a question, I'm going to get my hands dirty to answer the questions. And then after I do that, I'm going to go and I'm going to learn. And I'm not afraid of making mistakes in the sense that if I'm not going to cover my mistakes up, I'm going to ask my rabbi, whose name is something else, but I'm going to call him Mephiboshet because he's someone that I'm willing to get embarrassed from. Okay?
Rabbi,
Yes. Hi, Mr. Cordovan.
how are you? Rabbi, why didn't David HaMelech learn from Moshe Rabbeinu that he learned from his father-in-law Yitro that this is not a correct thing? And Moshe Rabbeinu realized that he wasn't correct doing exactly what David HaMelech is doing now. He should have listened to Yitro. That's why the parasha is called Yitro. Why is it a question to burn yourself down? At the end of the day, we know David HaMelech lived 7 years only too. Of course, we know that he was supposed to be 7 years, and we know all that. But at the end of the day, he didn't have a very long life either.
So very good question. So you're asking the question, challenging why David HaMelech is even doing this, right? So David HaMelech is saying, Hashem, please help me, protect me, keep me well. Why? Because I'm willing to get involved with the small details. Mr. Korvani is asking, okay, but that's not smart use of your time. Right? Like Yitro told Moshe Rabbeinu, don't get involved with the small details, deal with the bigger picture. So it's a very good question. And I'll tell you, Mr. Korvani, what some of the commentators say, and I'm going to tell you something very interesting. Some of the commentators say is that you're absolutely correct. He shouldn't get involved with the details unless no one else can. And what David HaMelech is saying is like there are certain questions that no one else can deal with. And I'll step in. I'm not going to say that since it's an individual, it's below me. If it's a complicated question, I'm willing to step in and get myself involved. And I'll tell you, there's a big Ashkenazi rabbi from New York, Lower East Side. His name was Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. Have you all heard of him? Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. He's one of the leading Jewish figures from New York for let's say the past 50 years. One of the most leading Jewish rabbanim. Rabbi Chaim knows all of his shuvot, all of his responsa by heart, back and forth. He agrees with him on a lot, disagrees with him on a lot, but he has a tremendous amount of respect for him. And at the end of the day, he says Rav Moshe Feinstein was the Gaon of the generation. He was a complete genius. So Rav Moshe Feinstein, in his introduction, I believe, I actually didn't read it, but I heard someone explain this, that based on this Gemara, Rav Moshe Feinstein was justifying the fact of why is he even writing this? Why do I need to write book? He wrote tons of books. Why do I need to do this? Why do I need to get involved with questions? Who am I to get involved with questions? And he points to this Gemara and he says, David HaMelech was in a high position. But when he saw that no one else was getting involved with some specific question, no one else knew the answer, he stepped up and said, I have to do it. Right? So it's not that he was asking for these cases. It's the cases that no one was able to deal with. He said, I'll get my hands dirty. There's nothing wrong with getting my hands dirty. So Rav Moshe Feinstein says the same thing. He says, right now, I see that there's a lot of questions. I'll get my hands dirty and I'm going to start writing. And I'm going to start writing shuvot. And he wrote book after book after book after book. You see what Rav Moshe Feinstein's accomplishments to the world are. But it's very, again, it's in line with his humility, where he's saying, like, why am I even doing this? I'm doing this because I need to step up and do it. There's nothing wrong with stepping up and doing it. So, Mr. Korvani, your question is an absolute excellent question. It's not that he was mismanaging his time. It's that what he's saying is that normally I don't deal with these things. But when there's a time and need, I'm willing to get involved even with the individual. Even though it's not going to get me points with large people and it's not going to get me big fanfare, but I'm willing to do it if it's necessary. Meaning if no one else can answer the question.
Great answer. Thank you, Rabbi. I'm convinced.
Okay. No, it didn't take years away from his life.
He could be proving incorrect. He's admitting.
So, okay. Okay.
I'm also, I don't know if this is relevant or not, but Mephiboshet is Shaul's son, and he's the only son who survives after Yonathan's killed and Shaul's killed everyone, and David brings him into the court. I think in Tanakh that's actually, he brings him into his inner circle as a kind of a respect to Shaul and Yonathan, his best friend.
Okay, so you're okay. So we have a few very good
described as like lame, handicapped, dull, like wasn't described as like if I'm correct.
Okay, so
Described as like an intelligent person.
very, very, very nice. Okay, so this is where you have a machloket between the different. So okay, I want to just repeat the questions for the recording. Since some people pointed out. So Josh, you're asking a question of time out. David HaMelech is saying like afterwards I go and I get my work audited because I think I'm making mistakes. Chobaba, you need more sleep and you need to stop dealing with these questions. Right? This is like what we're telling David HaMelech, like, I'm not sleeping and I'm dealing with questions. Maybe it's better if you don't, right? That's like the inclination that we get from the fact that he's saying, like, oh, I'm willing to ask and I'm not embarrassed if I make questions. Maybe you should be embarrassed if you're getting the wrong answers, right? So that's like one perspective of it. Chas v'shalom, not to say it's negative about David HaMelech, but to understand what he's saying. And Shelby is too advanced for me right now. And Shelby is already saying how from the stories of Tanakh, you see Mephiboshet actually was Shaul HaMelech's son, and he was brought in out of respect, but he wasn't necessarily someone that was so important. So that's why some say how it's actually not Shaul HaMelech's son, it's Yonatan's son. So there's different opinions. And that's why I didn't really get into who he actually was, but what the Gemara's point is saying who he's not. He's not Mephiboshet. That's not his name. Whoever it is someone that he would turn to. And Josh, to your point, let's keep reading what the Gemara says. Because what the Gemara is going to say is that Mephiboshet was excellent at challenging David HaMelech. But Mephiboshet wasn't always right. In other words, this is like getting someone who is what you call the opposition, a contrarian. Someone who no matter what I say will say I'm wrong. He's playing the devil's advocate. But it's not that David HaMelech is wrong. Actually, the Gemara is going to say David HaMelech was right the whole time. But he wanted to hear dissenting opinions. So he encouraged that. So the whole thing is that he built it this way, that he doesn't want someone to come and say, Amen, yes, you're correct. He wants someone who is in that position that's going to dissent with everything, which Shelby could also fit with what you're saying, is that what he's saying is not necessarily correct. So let's go ahead and see the Gemara, because you guys are really, really on top of your game. Very nice. Okay. Okay, here we go. Shehaya mevayesh b'penei David b'halacha. He would embarrass David in halacha. Lefikach, therefore, since David HaMelech humbled himself and welcomed this embarrassment, Zacha David v'yatza mimenu kil'av. He merited to have kil'av come from him. Shelby, who's kil'av?
Other alias.
No, it's another alias. Very good. So, V'amar Rabbi Yochanan tell us, Lo Kil'av Shemo, Ela Daniel Shemo. Really, his name wasn't Kil'av, as Shelby tells you. His name wasn't Kil'av, his name was Daniel. Again, it's one of David HaMelech's sons. That's not, yeah, even that. It's because there's a pasuk in Divrei Hayamim that says it. But again, the point is here, is that David HaMelech invited someone to come challenge everything that he's saying. And he would get embarrassed. Because of that, the Gemara says he merited to have a son named Kil'av. Now, Kil'av, what is it? Very good. Very good, Shelby. We're gonna kick you out of the class. So, when you go into Vegas and then someone is like winning in the gambling and they come, security says it's time for you to leave. Shelby, we're gonna.
He's a ringer.
Yeah. This is very good. Very good. It's Abigail's son. Very good. And there's different opinions. Very good. Okay. It's not as relevant. This whole story of Tanakh is not as relevant here. What's relevant here is that there's someone who's now going to come back in David HaMelech's corner and defend David HaMelech. And look what the Gemara says. His name wasn't even Kil'av. It was actually Daniel. So why was he named Kil'av? Shehaya machlim penei Mephiboshet b'halacha. Because he would then go and embarrass. Machlim is to humiliate. So kill it from machlim. He would humiliate David HaMelech's father, so to speak, meaning his master. Kil'av would then go humiliate Mephiboshet. Meaning later on in life, the Kil'av comes and says, Dad, you know this question that you had? That you asked Mephiboshet and he said he was wrong? He was wrong. You were right the whole time. And this is the way the Gemara is giving this story. Now, back to Josh's point. So what the Gemara is really telling you is, don't think that David HaMelech was giving wrong rulings this whole time. It's the point, the focus here is to say how David HaMelech had the humility to ask. Sometimes we're in shiur with Rabbi Ben Chaim, and he'll ask a question, and then he'll ask us what we think. usually those are like very nerve-wracking moments because like what are you asking us for? And like whatever you say, it's like he'll sometimes if he's in the mood, no matter what you say, he's gonna knock down and say you're completely wrong. And sometimes, no matter what you say, no matter how much nonsensical it is, he says, yeah, you're right. Okay, it depends on what day you're catching him. But then there are times where I'm speaking to him not about Gemara things, not about halacha, because then there's the but it's more of, let's say, a social thing, something for the community, something like that. He'll ask me what I think, or he'll ask one of the other rabbanim, what do you think? What do you think we should do? What do you think is the right approach? And it's a sense of humility. It's a sense of humility, and he listens. He will listen. Again, that doesn't mean that he doesn't have his views. He has his views, but he's willing to go to people around him and ask questions. Now with David HaMelech, he was asking what he viewed as a superior. And the superior would give him things that the Gemara is telling us sometimes he would be wrong. But that's not the point. The point is that David HaMelech was willing to do that, willing to ask. The sense of ga'ava, of I don't need to ask. Oh, who are you? I need to ask. No. David HaMelech is the king of Israel. His word is the law. If someone goes against his word, it's death. But he's willing to accept the fact that he could be wrong, and he asks. There's no shame in that. Tomer, you had a question?
David would ask his father, and then his father would ask Mephiboshet?
No, not his father. David would ask Mephiboshet, his rabbi, and then later on in life, Kilav, who was David's son, would defend Kilav's father, his father, by going against David's rabbi, Mephiboshet. Okay? Shahaya.
Kilav was really Daniel?
So the Gemara here, so there's different, again, I don't want to get bogged down by that, but the Gemara in this flow, this opinion is saying that Kilav is Daniel, yes, and Kilav is his alias. And the Kilav title came because he's the one that was arguing with Mephiboshet.
That means Daniel is the son of David HaMelech.
Correct. But there's more than one Daniel. There's more. This is not. No. This is more than one Daniel. Yes. Okay. Yeah, that was the same question. Okay. There's more than one Daniel. Before. Okay. Very good. Beforehand, we spoke with the Yoet. We spoke about the Yoet, his advisor. So very good. So exactly as you're bringing, this is going back to Mr. Korvani's question. We know that there's a Sanhedrin in place. We know that there's this court in place. We know, and that the king is not on the court. The king himself, this is the Rambam that says this in Hilchot Sanhedrin, he himself does not sit on the Sanhedrin. So back to Mr. Korvani's questions. There were other courts, there were other Rabbanim. David HaMelech is saying, I'm willing to get myself involved with questions, and I'm willing to expose myself, to make myself vulnerable, to allow for myself to be humiliated. I'm willing to do that.
I think the Gemara is just trying to show this is a part of David HaMelech's character. He was very humble. He was going to be humble.
He was a very humble person. Are you okay being on YouTube? Because yeah, exactly. I wish there was a way to zoom in. Okay, yeah, very good. Shelby is our resident expert of Tanakh, and this is the character of David HaMelech, someone who is humble. Okay, very good. I think we should continue, and this is where the Gemara continues to say. By the way, Shelby, you're in the small screen because I'm not. So like you're in the small corner because we're sharing screen. Shlomo. Now we're talking about David's other son. Writes in Mishle, Beni, my son, my dear son, meaning he's writing on behalf of his father. Im chacham libecha, if you are very wise, if your heart is wise, my dear son, yismach libi gam ani, I'll also be happy. As a father, I will be happy when you are chacham, when you are smart. So simple meaning is that a father's dream is for his son to be successful and wise and to succeed. But here the Gemara is pointing it to some specific event. My son, when you are wise, it makes me happy because you come back and you start defending me for all of those things that I thought that I might have been wrong for. Ve'omer, and another pasuk in Mishle, Chacham beni, my son is wise. V'samach libi, my heart is happy. Ve'ashiva chorafi davar, and those who humiliate me or taunt me are now getting pushed back. So that's again. The Gemara is tying it to this incident. Okay, so there's a lot of details here. Overall, the main thing, as Shelby elaborated very, very nicely, is that he was humble. He's willing to ask questions. He's willing to answer questions when he needs to. He's willing to ask questions. He's willing to be humiliated. And eventually it turns out that he was right the whole time, but that he was okay asking the questions. Okay, now let's continue. The Gemara says, okay, now I understand what David HaMelech was saying when he said that I'm devout, I'm pious. But there's another reason why I don't think he would say that. Would David really consider himself a chassid? You already explained to me what he means. But still, does David even think about it with these specific things? But it says, and this is a pasuk of Tehillim, it's actually the LeDavid that we say, if you look in the Siddur after Aleinu L'Shabeach in the mornings, there's a paragraph of LeDavid. Okay? The Ashkenazim actually say LeDavid every day in the month of Elul. So they're reading this every day. We do sometimes, but ve'aketiv, it says, Lulehe emanti lirot betuv Adonai be'eretz hachaim. It's like David HaMelech saying, if I had not believed to look upon the goodness of Hashem in the land of the living. Meaning, David HaMelech is talking about all of the suffering that he's going through, but he says, I know that one day the only thing that keeps me going is to know that one day I'm going to see you, Hashem, and that I'm going to be living with you. Meaning, that's what keeps me going. The fact that I know that one day, I'll be able to see the truth and be able to experience Olam Haba with you. Okay? But the Gemara says, in the name of Rabbi Yosef, Braita teaches us, the word lule, which over here means, if not for the fact that I knew that I would see you one day, I would give up, but I'm not giving up because not for the fact that this word lule has a dot on it. If you look at a text of a Tanakh, there's a dot on top of this. So what? When there's a dot, it's almost like a negation. So Amar David Lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, David is saying in front of Hashem, Ribono shel olam, God, Muftach ani becha she'ata meshalem sechar tov latzadikim la'atid lavo. I believe, I fully trust that there will be an Olam Haba, and you will give reward to tzadikim in Olam Haba. Aval ani eni yodea im yesh li chelek benhem im lav. I don't know if I'm a tzaddik. I don't know if I'm going to get Olam Haba. So in this parak of Tehillim, David HaMelech is saying, all of the suffering I'm going through in this world, what's keeping me going is the fact that I know I'm going to get Olam Haba. And when he says that, there's a dot on it, which means like, I'm actually not sure if I'm going to get Olam Haba. And I'm not questioning whether there is an Olam Haba. I'm not questioning whether people will get reward. I know they will. I just don't know if I deserve it, is what he's saying. So the Gemara says, you have on this end, you have this midrash, this opinion that's saying David HaMelech is not sure if he's going to get Olam Haba, or he's not going to make it there. David HaMelech is not sure. But then you have another one that says, I am a chassid, I'm righteous. So which one is it? So let's see what the Gemara responds. The Gemara responds very simply, Shema yigrom hachet. Maybe because of sin, he'll lose his Olam Haba. See, David HaMelech, a lot of his life, and Shelby, maybe you could talk to us a little bit about this. A lot of his life, he did a sin. He did a major sin with Bathsheba, and this sin weighed on his conscience for the rest of his life. And Chatatila Hashem Lenegdi Tamid, his sin, I think that's supposed to, but the sin that he had done, he was with a woman that he shouldn't have been with. And the Gemara explains why it was actually permitted, but he did something wrong, and he regrets it. He knows that he did something wrong, and it weighed on his conscience. Yeah, you want to add something to it? Hold on. Yeah. So go ahead. So what's the story?
The story is that he saw her doing something on her roof. He saw her bathing. He saw her.
Yeah, that's what the song says.
He
Yeah.
was attracted to her. He inquired about her. He slept with her, and he sent his general to send her husband out to battle on the front lines in a battle that he kind of knew he wasn't going to come back.
Very good. Okay, very good. So you know the song. Hallelujah. I believe it's like. Part of it is about that, yeah. David's song, singing on the roof, David's song. So basically, the story, without going into the whole story here, is that David HaMelech saw a woman, Bathsheba, and sent her husband, Uriah, to the front lines of war, in a war that was almost like known that he's going to die. And then he was with her, and it's like, what you basically was with a married woman, the timing, when was he with her? Again, not for now, but the point is, the prophet came and Natan HaNavi came and said, you did something wrong. And now this sin was living on his conscience this whole time. So when he says, I am pious, yes, he did plenty of righteous things. and did things that he's proud of and he's willing to say, I'm devout for. But then when this happened, he's even questioning whether he's going to get Olam Haba. Because this sin is something that he did that he acknowledges is so wrong. And he says to Hashem, he says, I know you're going to have Olam Haba. I just don't know if I'm going to get it. I don't know if I'm going to receive it. So let's go ahead and read the Gemara. So Shema Yigrom Achet. Maybe the sin that he committed over here, the way they say it is like in the future, lest the transgression that he might commit in the future will cause him to lose his opportunity. That could be one way of explaining it, or it could be another way of explaining is that because of the sin, he thinks he might have lost it. Because Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi, because Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi, he finds two psukim about Yaakov Avinu, and with Yaakov Avinu also he found some sort of a disconnect. What was the disconnect with Yaakov Avinu? In Parashat Vayetzeh, he has these dreams with the ladder. You know the story? He's leaving home, he's running away from home. As I say, he got in one little fight with his brother, and his mom got scared, said, move with the auntie and uncle in Haran. You got to move out of town, and you're moving to Haran. So he leaves Haran, he leaves his home, moves to Haran, and as he goes there, he has a dream, and Hashem tells him, quote, Kitiv, I am with you, I will protect you, and I will safeguard you in everywhere that you go. Is God going to protect him? Yes. Uchtiv, Vayira Yaakov me'od. He wakes up and Yaakov is scared. Oh no, actually it's not when he wakes up. It's later on when he's going to meet Esav, I believe. He just gets very scared. What are you getting scared about? Hashem told you, I'm going to be with you and protect you everywhere that you go. Now you're going to go meet Esav and you're scared that he's going to hurt you. What are you scared of? Hashem said he's going to protect you. What are you scared of? Amar. So what he's saying is, Shema Yigrom Achet. Maybe he sinned. Maybe he did something wrong. In other words, what he's saying is, I know that God promised me that I'm going to be protected, but I assume that means if I behave, if I hold myself to good standards. But if I do something wrong, then God's free from his side of the promise. He doesn't have to keep me protected if I do something wrong. So you see this idea with Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu was promised that he's going to be protected, yet he questioned whether he would be protected. Why? Because he said, maybe I sinned. The same with David HaMelech. David HaMelech knew that he was righteous, but he questioned whether he'll get Olam Haba. Why? Because maybe he sinned, he'll lose it. Okay? And now we're going to say the third example of this. Wow. Kedetanya. As it says in the Braita, this is what we say in the Az Yashir. Ad ya'avor amecha Adonai, ad ya'avor amzu kanita. Until your people will cross, this is what we say in the Az Yashir, Hashem, until your people will cross, until the people you have acquired will cross. So it says, until your people will cross, meaning will enter the land of Israel. It says it twice. Ad ya'avor, until they enter. Ad ya'avor, until they enter. So what the Gemara is saying, how that's talking about the two times that we went back to the land of Israel. First, the first time. Then, after we got exiled to Babel, the second time. That's what the two Ad ya'avors are talking about. We came back to Israel. We went to Israel for the first time. Then we went to Babel. First Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. And then we came back a second time. So Ad ya'avor amecha Adonai zo b'yah rishonah. The first part where it says until your nation passes into the land of Israel, that's the first time we went in with Joshua. Ad ya'avor amzu kanita, until the nation that you chose, that you acquired comes, zo b'yah sheniyah. This is the second time that we came after the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash from Babel with Ezra. Hundreds of years later. Hundreds of years later. From here our sages teach us that the same pasuk talks about the two returns of exiles together. Why? Because they were supposed to happen the same way. The same miracles that occurred for us when we were entering the land with Joshua, which means the Jordan River split and the walls of the Jericho fell down and everything that Shelby can tell us. All of these miracles that occurred that got us into the land of Israel so successfully should have happened second time around also, but it didn't. We didn't have those crazy miracles. Ezra barely came with people. People stayed in Babel. You didn't have those same miracles. What's the difference? Because we sinned. We sinned, and because of the sin, there was absence of miracle. So our sages, so the commentators ask, what were the sin? The answer is because they didn't all come back. Not everyone came back in the times of Ezra. Many people stayed outside of Israel. And this, my dear friends, is the time we have to speak about making an aliyah, right? So the commentators are explaining that after the exile of the Beit HaMikdash, when we were able to go back, many people were very happy with the lives that they had, and they weren't interested in going back. So Ezra Sofer says, "Let's go, yeah, let's go, everyone come back." And then like 5% of the Jewish people, 10% of the Jewish people come. So they're going, and Hashem's like, "You want me to do miracles for this? I'm going to do miracles." It's like one of those exhibition games that no one shows up to. You're giving out free tickets and people still don't show up. Hashem says, "You want me to do miracles for this? I'm not going to do miracles for this." So the way the Chachamim explained this Gemara here is that what should have happened is we came into the land the second time, and the river splits and everything falls and all of that. We're coming in. We don't have to go beg from Koresh to build the walls and Nehemiah to go do this and all of this complicated stuff. Did you get up to that yet? No, you didn't get up to that yet. Okay, you get back to us when you get up there. All of these things, these difficulties, these challenges, people were stopping them from building the walls. They had people stopping them back and forth. It should have just happened miraculously, but it didn't. Why? Because we sinned. And our sin was we were not coming, so the miracles didn't occur. Okay? So again, here, what the Gemara is telling us is this idea of sometimes there's blessing that's going to be promised to you, but you could lose it. So we have three situations of that. Three cases of blessing that's promised us that we lost. Number one, David HaMelech knows that he's righteous, but he also knows that he may not get Olam Haba. Why? Because sin can do that. You lose the blessing that you deserve. Second, Yaakov Avinu was promised by God that he will be protected. But when he was going to face Esav, he was concerned, maybe I won't be protected. Why? Maybe I've sinned. Maybe I won't get God's blessing, God's protection. And the third one the Gemara tells us is that the same way, Adi Avor Amacha Adonai, Adi Avor Amzukanita. The first Beit HaMikdash we entered, the second Beit HaMikdash we entered. They're supposed to be the same miraculous events. The first time was miraculous, second time should be miraculous, but it wasn't. Why? Because we sinned. What was our sin? The way the commentators explain, our sin was that we didn't go. Many of us didn't go, so that was a part of the sin that we didn't all enter. But the point is that we didn't have the same miraculous. The second Beit HaMikdash didn't have the same miracles as the first. It wasn't the same because we weren't the same. Okay, this is good idea to understand for 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah. To understand that Be'ezrat Hashem we should all get blessing, and we all know we're going to get blessing. But when we do something wrong, we should have the humility, like David HaMelech, to say, hey, nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed to me. Not even my life is guaranteed. Person has to do teshuvah. Person has to always have this perspective of, maybe I did something wrong, and do teshuvah for it. It's not meant to depress you. It's not a feeling that's depressing you, and since I might not make it, then I give up. No, the opposite. To go on with the humility and say, you know what, maybe I've sinned, and since I sinned, maybe I won't make it. So what? So let me do teshuvah. Let me try to fix my sins. Let me try to everything that I've done wrong. Let me try to improve. This is what we're learning from David HaMelech, and to close off this section. Okay. So yes, question.
Not to get sidetracked, but technically, are we in Galut now? We have the ability to go back.
So okay, you're asking a very good question. John's question is: are we considering Galut today? So my understanding is that majority of the Jewish people are actually in Eretz Yisrael now, or at least this, maybe not.
Close.
Half? Okay, so then you just need one more. Then it'll be so yeah, it's very close. For many years, America had the highest population. My understanding now is I think Israel is number 1, America is number 2, France is number 3, something like that. So we do have majority of people in the land of Israel. But what are we doing outside of Israel, right? So like clearly there is this concept of we're still in exile, we don't have the Beit HaMikdash, we still have Tisha B'Av. When we have Tisha B'Av, we still make a bracha every day in the Amidah. And what do we say? Boneh Yerushalayim. We're asking for Hashem to rebuild Yerushalayim. I remember someone on Tisha B'Av here was telling me like you have to change the pasuk. Over there you say Yerushalayim Chareva, it's destroyed. He says, no, it's not destroyed. You have to say Yerushalayim Hayata Chareva. It was destroyed. Say it was because it's not. Well, if we're going to do that, then we shouldn't be doing Tisha B'Av at all. Right? The idea is that there still is some sense of destruction, and we still are in Galut. Now, U.S. is by far 51. Okay, it's not by far, but
No, it's 30.
oh, so 50. Oh, so Israel is only 30%.
Israel has 6 million, US has 5.7 million.
Okay, so yeah, those two are okay. Yeah, okay. I'm not exactly sure, but the point to answer your question is, look, this is it. Like, we're not going to get much closer to the third. This is as close as it gets. You could get on a flight tonight. There's probably a red-eye flight. You could get on there and be there by tomorrow morning. So compare yourself to what we had for thousands of years. Baruch Hashem, this is not galut. But at the same time, we don't have the Beit HaMikdash, and we're not there. We don't have the Sanhedrin. We don't have a Melech. We don't have the Kohen Gadol. We don't have the Korbanot. There are things that are missing. So yeah, we're still in galut. We're still in galut, but Be'ezrat Hashem, not for long. May our eyes, ve'enenu techazena, Be'ezrat Hashem, all of our eyes should very, very soon be able to see the Beit HaMikdash. Okay. All right. Good. It's 9:25. I want to continue going because I want to make sure we turn the page. It's a goal that I have, is I want to turn the page, so we're going to do it. But I just need to, everybody shake it out. You have a 7th inning stretch. Everyone okay? We are done with the tangent. Baruch Hashem. Can anyone explain to me why we were just talking about Yaakov Avinu? Does anyone have how we got here? So here's how we got here. I'm not sure. Because here's how we got here. We were dealing with the question of our Mishnah. Our Mishnah asked, what is the end time of Shema Yisrael? The first opinion of what's the end time of Shema Yisrael is the end of the first watch. Whose opinion is that? Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer says the end of the first watch. And we said, time out, what's a watch? How many watches are there? How many watches are there? And one opinion says, I know there's 4 watches. You know how I know there's 4 watches? Because David HaMelech said that he would wake up before 2 watches, and he also says he got up at midnight. We say, hey, that's interesting. David HaMelech got up at midnight. How did he get up at midnight? Oh, he had this. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know when midnight was. How did he know when midnight was? Well, he knew it because he had a harp. Oh, he got up at... Okay, fine. And he's getting up. He's getting up before all of the kings. Wait a minute. There's a pasuk in Tehillim that he says he's a chassid. He's such a righteous person. Why is he such a righteous person? Because he's getting up at midnight. Oh, he's getting up at midnight. He's also dealing with these questions. Why is he dealing with these questions? After he deals with the questions, he asks the king. He asks Mephiboshet if he's correct or not. Then he had a son who came and he said, oh yeah, he was right. Then we speak about that, and then he said, hold on a second. He's a chassid, but he said he doesn't even know he's going to get an olam haba. He's not going to get an olam haba. Yaakov Avinu also thought he's not going to do well. Also, the Am Yisrael going to do well. Okay, fine. All right, hold on. Time out. Let's get back to our Mishnah. Let's get back to our Mishnah for a second. Performance, right? Back to our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said, what's the end time of Shema? Rabbi Eliezer told us the end of the first watch. Thank you very much for saying something in a cryptic way and putting us on a tangent for the next 2 pages. Let's get to the next opinion. What was the next opinion? Chachamim. What time is the end time of Shema according to Chachamim? Chatzot, midnight. And the third opinion? Ad sheyaleh amud hashachar. Dawn. And whose opinion was that? Rabban Gamliel. Very good. I see you're doing he's doing review because you said the words Ad sheyaleh amud hashachar, which you can't do unless you have a great memory or you're doing some review. So I'm assuming you're doing a review or you have great memory. Both are good. So the next opinion was until midnight. The third opinion was until Ad sheyaleh amud hashachar. Okay. One thing I'm going to give you, and then we're going to read the Gemara. What the Gemara is going to say is, look, the time to say Shema is all based on the pasuk. The Shema you're supposed to do b'shoch bechav kumecha. B'shoch bechav means when you're lying down. So you have one of 2 ways of understanding this. Either it means the time that people are going to sleep, or it means the time that people are asleep. So either that means people are going to sleep, that's the beginning of the night, like what Rabbi Eliezer says, the first third of the night, because by the end of the first third of the night, everyone's asleep. Okay, think about the time when there's no lights. People will go to sleep by the end of the first watch. Or it means while people are sleeping, and people would sleep the entire night. Other than exclude David HaMelech, people were not getting up in the middle of the night, at midnight. They would sleep the entire night. So Rabbi Eliezer, who says the first third of the night, I get it. He understands B'shoch B'cha, it means say Shema the time that people are going to sleep. So say Shema by the end of the third hour, people are done going to sleep. So that's it. Rabban Gamliel, on the other hand, says as all the while that people are sleeping. Okay, so you have until dawn. Chachamim come and they say the midnight. What is that? Don't tell me that people are going to sleep until midnight. No, either people are going to sleep at the beginning of the night, like Rabbi Eliezer, or they're sleeping the whole night. But what is this midnight idea? So that's what our Gemara wants to deal with. And you guys already know the answer because we started to discuss that in the Mishnah. What is it? It's a buffer. Very good. They're creating a fence. let's go ahead and read it in the Gemara. Okay, here we go. V'chachamim omerim ad chatzot. These words right here is a quote of our Mishnah. We are now moving on. The next line of our Gemara is talking about the next line of our Mishnah. Okay, Chachamim say until midnight. The Gemara is going to ask the question that I just presented. Chachamim keman sevir alehu. Who do the Chachamim hold like? If they hold like Rabbi Eliezer, that the words Bishoch Becha means the time that you're going to sleep. So Lemru ki Rabbi Eliezer. So then you should agree with Rabbi Eliezer's time, the first third of the night. You should agree with him. If you agree, it means time that you're going to sleep, so you agree with him. And now I'm turning to Daf Dalet Amud Bet 4b. Rabban Gamliel, and if he holds like Rabban Gamliel, who says that Bishoch Becha means all the while that people are sleeping means the whole night, Lemru ki Rabban Gamliel. So you should agree with Rabban Gamliel. What is this midnight answer? So the Gemara is going to say, Le'olam ki Rabban Gamliel svir alahu. Really, they hold like Rabban Gamliel, and that you could say Shema like Rabban Gamliel says until dawn. All the while that people are sleeping, you're allowed to say Shema. Oh, so then why do they stop you at midnight? So why did they say until midnight? In order to distance people from doing a sin. Now, the Braita is continuing. Yeah, question on this? Yes, very good. So the Mishnah tells us, that's why I said, like this whole idea of the Mishnah telling us Kedei laharchik is already in the Gemara, but the Gemara here is going to, it wants to bring this Braita, which is a lot more explicit. This Braita here, the Gemara is leading you up to this Braita, because this Braita really elaborates it. The way you learned it in our Mishnah, so exactly, the way we learned it in our Mishnah was not a teaching of the Gemara, it was a story. Rabban Gamliel's sons came home one day, they went to a wedding, they got home after midnight, and when they got home after midnight, they went to the dad. They say, "Hey, Dad, I know that you say I could say Shema the whole night, but the rabbis argue with you and they say until midnight. Should we say it or is it done?" He says, "No, you have to say it. The rabbis really agree with me that you have the whole night to say it. Of that, if they agree with you, why do they say until midnight? Oh, to distance people from doing a sin. Very good. You reviewed the Mishnah. I see you reviewed the Mishnah. Very good. But this was what Rabban Gamliel told to his sons. It wasn't a teaching of the Gemara to us. So we eavesdropped on that conversation, but the Gemara wants to say, like, no, he's right. Let me show you the proof. Let me show you where it is. By the way, we have Cody Cohen has been watching the shiurim. He told me it literally happened to him that someone came home from Cody. If you're here, you could tell us a story. He said, like, the night after we learned this, someone came home from a wedding and said, "Oh, I didn't say Shema yet. Can I say Shema? It's after midnight." And he's like, "Is this a joke?" He's literally asking the question. He's like, "Yeah, you should say it the whole night." It's very hilarious. But he said the person was dead serious. Hilarious story. Yeah, question?
Is it like the same concept when you tell your friend that always comes late, come at 7:30 when you really invite for 9, just so they're there by 9?
Yeah, very good, very good. This is where you're going to see this, Ben. So Ben said I should have put the camera on you. Ben said very nicely that this is where if you have a friend that you know is what we call Del Bozorg, you have a friend that you know that's going to come an hour and a half late, so you tell him an hour and a half early, because if you tell him the time that you want him to show up and he shows up late, really it's your fault for telling him the time that you for not telling the earlier time. This is where you get, if there's a wedding between an Ashkenazi and a Sephardi, they send out 2 invites. The Sephardim, their invite has an hour and a half earlier than the Ashkenazim, so that this way the Ashkenazim aren't waiting for so long. The Ashkenazim, they come, the Sephardim, they're 2 hours late, but okay, it's only half hour late. So I'm actually not kidding. I've heard of them being different invitation times, because you see a wedding invitation that says 5:30. What time are you going to go to that wedding? 8:30. You're or maybe 8. If it's a Sunday, maybe 7:30. If you want your.
I think Evan's wedding did.
What did Evan's wedding? Oh, they said.
Rabbi, I did that for my wedding actually.
What did you do? What did you do?
I put 6 o'clock for Ashkenazis and 5:30 for Mashadis.
You were there. You were there. What time did you go, Joey?
On time.
You were on time. You were on time. On the Sephardi time. Okay, no, but you're a cousin, so there's no proof from you. But yeah, okay, very good. Exactly, Ben. Exactly what he said. Yeah.
Why why is this based on Chachamim only giving the Torah?
Okay, very good. So your question is, okay, do our sages do this like with everything? Like with every single thing in the world, are they going to come start making lines extra? No, the Gemara is going to explain there is something extra. Well, yeah, so Andy's saying again they do, but here there's something specific. So let's see what the Gemara says, and it's going to answer your question, okay? So, Kidatanya, as we learned in the Braita, Chachamim asu siyag ledivrehem. Our sages made a fence for their words. So, Cody, back to your point, you see here there's an explicit Braita telling us that this is what Chachamim did. It's not just a story of Rabban Gamliel and his sons. It's an explicit story. Sages draw a fence around their words. Why? Because someone's going to come home from work one day, okay? Mina sadeh, from the field. The guy is working hard in the field. He comes home ba'erev at night, and he'll say the following, Elech lebeiti, let me go home. Ve'ochel kim'ah, I'll eat a little. Eshte kim'ah, I'll drink a little. Ve'ishan kim'ah, I'll sleep a little. Ve'achar kach ekra kriyat Shema ve'etpalel. And then I'll say Shema and Arvita late at night. Let me go home, have something to eat, something to drink, just relax, sit on the couch a little bit, take a quick nap. Okay, then I'll pray. What's going to happen? Ve'chotafto sheina. The sleep will actually end up grabbing him in. Meaning what? All of a sudden he wakes up on the couch at 4 a.m. Venimsa yashen kol halayla. It turns out he's sleeping the entire night. Okay, it's possible. Aval, what do Chachamim want you to do? Adam ba min hasadeh be'erev. It would be better if a person is leaving the office in the evening. They come home. Nichnas. He comes lebet Kenesset. He goes to the Kenesset. He goes to the Beit Kenesset. Not that he goes home. Im ragil likrot. If he's someone who knows how to read Sukkim, koreh. So you read some Torah. You do Shlai Mikra v'Echad Tergum. You read the parasha. Im ragil lishnot. If you know how to learn Mishnayot or you know how to learn Halachot, shoneh. So you learn some Halachot. V'koreh v'Kriyat Shema. Then you pray Arvit. You read Kriyat Shema. Umitpalel. You pray Arvit. V'ochel pitum v'rech. Then you go home. You have dinner, you have Birkat Hamazon, and now if you fall asleep, big deal. All right, you didn't brush your teeth. Okay, so big deal. You get some cavities. But at least you didn't miss Shema Yisrael. So unbelievable what the Gemara is telling us. And so this is something that's very important. What the Gemara is telling us is that Chachamim understand that if we tell you could say Shema the whole night, what's the risk? Ilan, it's not just that maybe I'll come late to a wedding because I'm Persian. It's maybe I'll fall asleep. Oh, okay. Now, the issue with sleep is that once you fall asleep, who knows when you're going to wake up? So that's where we have to be strict. They put this deadline of midnight because they know that if we put this deadline, you're going to say, look, I can't all of a sudden fall asleep because then it's going to be too late for me to say Shema if I wake up at 1 a.m. So now you're going to say, okay, let's get things going. Before I even go home and have dinner, let me just go to Beit Kenesset, pray Arvit. Let me pray my Arvit. And you see, it's very nice how it says, like, just go to the Beit Kenesset, you read a little, you study a little, you pray, you say Shema, you pray Arvit, then you go home. Then you have the whole night ahead of you. But don't do it in the opposite order. What is it? That's correct. It's the first third of the, yeah. Oh, this is not even the first third of the night. This is the first couple of minutes of the night. This is telling you say Shema right away. It's not telling you wait until midnight to say it. What they're saying is by putting a time limit, it's going to incentivize you to get this out of the way, really, and don't leave it until later. Because if you leave it until later, you might fall asleep and you might not come to say it. Let's keep going through the Braita. Whoever goes against the words of the rabbis, chayav mita, deserves a death penalty. Gemara says, "Time hold your horses." You want me to say Shema Yisrael? I'll say Shema Yisrael. Why am I getting killed here all of a sudden? I sat on my couch, watched some Sports Center, fell asleep, and now I get a death penalty. So the Gemara says, why is it that in other cases, when you have a rabbinic decree, you don't tell me you get the death penalty? But here, if someone goes home, has dinner, falls asleep, misses Shema, you say he deserves death? Relax. What happened? So the Gemara is going to say, you don't actually get chayav mita. You don't actually get a death penalty. We're trying to shake you up here. Why? Because they understand that this happens. They understand that people go home and they get involved. How many times has it happened that someone forgets to say Shema at night, or someone forgets to do Arvit at night? It happens. It happens. Even people that normally pray Arvit every night, they're busy. They come home. They have something to eat. They play with the kids a little bit. They do this. They do that. They play a little bit of the games. They watch a little bit of this. And before you know it, then they this is why I get the text in the morning and say, Rabbi, I forgot to pray Arvit last night. Can I pray Shacharit twice? Because last night was okay. So it's not uncommon to be exhausted at the end of the day. So one reason why they were so strict and they said if you don't do this, you get the death penalty is because they understand that someone might fall asleep. So they're trying to incentivize you to make sure you say Shema. A second answer, which is really a discussion for later, but we'll say it now. Tefilat Arvit Reshut. This is coming to oppose or to counteract the opinion that says that you don't really need to pray Arvit. There's an opinion that we're going to see later on in the Gemara that says Tefilat Arvit Reshut, that the prayer of Arvit at night is optional. You don't actually have to pray it. We're going to discuss at that time what that means. Okay, like for example, we don't do Chazara for Arvit. We only do one Yeh Nahashi. We don't do the two. Okay, that's part of it. There's certain things about Arvit is different from the other prayers. So there's an opinion that says it's Reshut, it's optional, which we'll explain at length when we get up to it. But this opinion of the Gemara is against that. And in order to make sure that it's clear, it's saying, hey, if you fall asleep and you don't pray Arvit, the focus is more on the Arvit part for him. You get the death penalty. Kamash Malan the Chovah. He's coming to teach you that you need to pray Arvit. So again, remember the story. The story is someone's going to come home from work. He's going to go, he's going to eat a little, he'll drink a little, he'll sleep a little, and then he'll end up falling asleep and he'll miss everything. Instead, go to the Beit Kenesset, study something, say Shema, pray Arvit, then go home. So, and if you don't listen, you get a death penalty. So this second opinion is really focused on the fact that he's telling you to pray Arvit. He's telling you to pray Arvit, and if you don't pray Arvit, you get a death penalty. That was really his focus. So one of them is saying about, I'm trying to scare you because I don't want you to oversleep. The other one is saying, like, I'm trying to scare you because I know there's opinions out there that tell you don't need to pray Arvit. You do. You don't pray Arvit, you get death penalty. It's not really the death penalty. It's just trying to show how this is a very, very serious opinion. Yes?
Do we have now the same order and structure as when this was written, meaning when they're telling you to go to Beit Kenesset and pray, and they're saying Shema and Hallel is like separate almost.
Very good, very good.
Same thing as what we're doing today.
Wow. Okay, Mr. Andy Basali is asking a question. Mr. Andy Basali is saying, in our Sidur, when we pray Arvit, we say a bracha, we say Baruchu, we say Asher Bidvaro, we do Ahava, then we do that, then we say Shema Yisrael, then we do Emunah, and then we say Hashkivenu, and then we say Amidah. So the way it says it in the Braita is you should say Shema and pray. So you're asking, like, was their Sidur the same thing? Was it the same thing or not? So the answer is actually going to be the topic of discussion for the next Gemara, because this discussion leads exactly to that question, as you've proven. So it's actually going to be the topic of the next discussion of, do you have to say Shema Yisrael and then Arvit in that order, or do you say Arvit first and Shema? Do they have to be connected? Can you have them separate? That's going to be the topic of the next discussion, which we'll discuss next week. So excellent question. Yes?
If you have the option of praying early, but doing Shema before when you're supposed to.
Hold on. Yeah, we owe this to you. Okay, go ahead.
If you have the option of praying early with a minyan, but saying Shema before you're supposed to, which you haven't fulfilled, or not praying with a minyan, saying alone but fulfilling at the right time, and you don't do both, you do one or the other. Which one is the better one? To pray with a minyan and say it at the wrong time, or pray alone and say it at the right time?
Okay, so Rama's asking a question that actually I wanted to deal with a different question, but I'll deal with your question too. So let me say two things. Okay, let's say two things here. Number one, Rama's asking a question of, is it better for me to push it off so that I say Shema at the right time? Or should I do it earlier so that I could pray Arvit with a minyan and get it out of the way? I think the answer is related to my second question. Okay, second question. no one is bothered by what the Gemara just said. The Gemara just said is you might think that after you work, you could go home, you could eat, you could drink, you're gonna sleep. Don't do that. Straight from the office, you have to go straight to the Beit Kenesset. You have to go straight, pray, learn something, pray. Did anyone eat dinner yet? Be careful, because if you say you ate dinner, it's chayav mitzvah. So what is the understanding there? The understanding here is that there is a halakha speaks about this, that if you want to eat dinner and if you want to do things that can lead you to missing out on your mitzvot, you need to have some sort of a arev, some sort of a shomer, some sort of a guard, something to protect you. So what that could be is as simple as having a reminder in your phone at 9 p.m., pray Arvit, say Shema, pray Arvit. Or if you have a set minyan, I know that I'm going to the 9:45 minyan or the 10 p.m. minyan, something like that. When it's built into your schedule, there's more leniency. So the first thing is you have to understand we're talking about someone who doesn't have that structure. He's not going to go to a later minyan. This guy is not going to a later minyan. He's a guy who lives in the field, and he's not. And so he's going to go. If he'll make a special trip, he'll go make a special trip. But if he goes home, he's not going to the Beit Kenesset. So for him, the situation is, look, it's better for you to go to the Beit Kenesset, get it out of the way. But if you're going to go back afterwards, that's also fine. If you have some sort of a reminder, if you have your wife or your kids or someone reminding you, that's also fine. That's what the halakha says. Set yourself a reminder, have someone remind you, put a reminder in your text, in your phone, do something to remind yourself, so that's okay. So that's the first thing I wanted to explain. So if you guys went home and had dinner beforehand, there's nothing wrong with it. I had dinner myself, but I knew that I'm going to be here. And it happens to be, I actually already prayed Arvit. Which comes to your second question. If I have an option to pray Arvit early or pray Arvit later, which one should I do? There's different opinions. And I think the answer is you have to know yourself. If by pushing it off, you run the chance of not saying it, so don't push it off. Apparently, what I've heard is Rav Chaim Kanievsky, who just passed away, he would try to pray every minyan at the earliest time possible for that minyan, which means he would do the earliest minyan of Shacharit by nets, and then mincha he would pray early, like the 1 p.m. Not chatzot, but the earliest mincha. Yeah, exactly. He would pray, and Arvit he would pray as soon as he could pray Arvit at night. He wouldn't leave it. Why? You have an opportunity to do a mitzvah, do the mitzvah. So that's one side. On the other side, someone might say, like, look, I need to go home. I need to help my wife with the shower the kids at night. I can go at 10 o'clock at night, but if I go early in the day, it's going to be too much of a shalom bayit issue. So for that guy, it's no question. You go afterwards. So your question was more specific of, should I say the Shema Yisrael early as part of a minyan, or maybe not go to minyan, but say Shema at the right time? The answer to that is actually very simple. Go to minyan, say, and then say Shema Yisrael again after.
I'm saying, let's say you don't want to do that. You're picking one or the other. So which one is the better one? You don't want to do twice. You're either going to do it early or you're going to do it late. You can't do it twice.
Rama,
So which one is better?
can I ask you a question?
Bottom line answer.
I'll give you a bottom line answer, but only if you let me do one thing. From now on, I'm going to call you Mephiboshet. You're going to be the guy who embarrasses me no matter what happens. And Bezrat Hashem, Shai is going to come and defend me one day. Okay. Okay. So which one? I'll tell you the answer. Shema Yisrael is a mitzvah from the Torah. When is the earliest time you can read Shema to fulfill your mitzvah for Arvit? At the time that the Kohanim enter. What time did we say that is? That's a mitzvah min Torah. Arvit, the prayer of Arvit, is only the Rabbanan, and even one opinion tells us it's Reshut. The mitzvah of Shema Yisrael at night is a mitzvah that's said min Torah. So if you're asking me, should I pray Arvit and not say Shema at the right time, or say Shema at the right time and don't pray Arvit, or don't pray Arvit with the minyan? There's no question. Arvit, Shema comes first, because the mitzvah is min Torah. So to answer your question, Mephiboshet, if this is the way you want to ask me the question, I'll answer your question this way. But the truth is, you should do both. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, very good. So the reason I wanted to point this out, and then again, this is also a very, there's a question here. Let me just see what the question of the chat is. I have a bit of a lag. If you want, you could ask the question because I can't see it. Sorry. So one. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. Question.
Sorry, just one question, kind of like on that. So, if someone says Arvit before the time, Can you say, like, did you say Shema Amita?
Yes.
Does that count as the Arvit Shema? And
Okay, very good. So Josh, you asked the question of the saying Shema Yisrael Alamita fulfill my mitzvah of Shema Yisrael. So let's say I pray Arvit and then I say Shema Yisrael on bed. So I'll tell you like this. The answer is yes. Actually, the Rashi tells us very early. But the question is, how much of Shema Yisrael do you have to say to fulfill the mitzvah? There's one opinion that says just the first line of Shema Yisrael Hashem Hashem Echad. Another one says no, with the paragraph of Ve'ahavta. Another one says no, with the paragraph of Ve'haya. And the last one says no, you need to say everything. So if you're going to rely on the Shema Yisrael Alamita, the Shema Yisrael of bed, if you're going to rely on that to fulfill your mitzvah of Shema, you should make it a practice to do the entire Shema Yisrael all the way through Vayomer, and then 100% you're fulfilling your mitzvah of Arvit. Okay, 100%. Okay, so no brachot before. No, if you already said it, you said the brachot, you don't do the brachot again. If you didn't say Arvit, you're saying, then you should do the brachot of Kriyat Shema before and after. Yeah. I'm sneaking it in. Yeah, you're gonna be forced to pray Arvit anyway.
Like Ribono Shalom, that stuff beforehand is not really the bracha of Shema, that's just like extra filler.
So there is a bracha of Hamapil, which is a bracha, but I believe the brachot of Kriyat Shema is probably higher precedence the bracha of Hamapil. I mean, so this is the way you should do all of this. Yeah, you guys are asking me which one, if I want to pick and choose my mitzvot. Look, if you want to pick and choose whichever ones you want. Let me just read you this question. Sorry? Okay. He asked me what happens if I don't do Shema. Shivigam. Okay. I think you already said this in a previous class, but what constitutes reciting Shema? Is it just a short bracha or the entire prayer? So yes, it is. There's four opinions. One opinion says the first line of Shema Yisrael. The next one says Shema ve'ahavta, Shema ve'ahavta ve'haya. And the last one says reading all four. So ideally you should do all four. But if you could only do even the first line, at least you're fulfilling it according to that one opinion. I want to leave you off. Mr. Joy Kashimalek once asked me to try to connect the Gemarot to individual life. So let me just leave you off with this last point. There's this very, very nice idea that this Gemara says, because it's pretty interesting, because you can see the humans back then or the humans of today. He says, I'll go home, I'll eat a little, I'll drink a little, I'll relax a little, I'll chill a little, but then you end up falling asleep and you end up losing everything that whole night, right? So again, this is very, very common for us. How many times does it happen that you're exhausted, you come home, and it's 8 o'clock, all of a sudden you look at your watch, it's 11:30. What happened? I'll tell you what happened. Meta and Mark Zuckerberg, whatever, they completely sucked out the last 4 hours of your life scrolling on Instagram, and he made money off you because you looked at ads and people paid for that. So the idea here is, don't let the time just go by. Don't let you get yourself get sucked into something. Really, 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 this is what the Bright Tasha says. I'll go home, I'll eat a little, I'll sleep a little, I'll Instagram a little, I'll TikTok a little. And then before you know, you wasted your whole life, your whole night. So idea here is to take control. You be in charge of your schedule. The Gemara flips everything on its head. If you go and you eat first and you relax first, you end up not even doing Arvit and Shema Yisrael. But if you do the opposite, what's the opposite? You go to the Beit Kenesset. Now what happens? You study Torah. You studied Mishnah. Excuse me. You prayed Shema. You said Shema Yisrael. You prayed Arvit. Now you went home and you accomplished so much because you took control. You took action. One decision. Do I go home first or do I go to the Beit Kenesset? Now again, Shalom Bayit. I'm not telling you not to go home. I'm going to get some angry calls from your wife saying you told my husband not to come home. I'm not telling you to do that. You go home, but you learn from the Gemara is this one decision that you make. I want to just share this one thing with you, and then we'll end off. Very recently, I told Andrew about this. Very recently, there's this program. It's called Zichru, and what they do, it's a organization that what they do is for every page of the Gemara, they pick 3 points from the page of the Gemara, and in order to help you memorize those 3 points and what page it's on, they create a story, and they have a picture, they have an image, okay? So for example, I'm doing this right now for Masechet Rosh Hashanah, because it's my review of Masechet Rosh Hashanah, so I could tell you like what they do in the story of Daf Vav. It says that there's this sword swallower, a guy who swallows swords, and every time he swallows a sword, there's a poor person, and he gives a poor person charity right away because he knows from the mitzvah ba'al ta'acher every single day that he doesn't fulfill a mitzvah ba'al ta'acher, he goes against a sin, and his wife is upset that she doesn't do the sin of ba'al ta'acher, so he gave her a sword necklace. Some crazy story, right? But in the story that I just told you, there's a picture, there's a video, and this story that I memorized, I now know 3 things. And Misera Roshana Davav. How do I know it's Davav? Because the sword is in the shape of a Vav. So this is what they did. It's their whole program. Sword is in the shape of the Vav, and the guy is giving charity to the guy as soon as the poor person comes, because we learned that there's an opinion that says when someone makes a pledge of charity, he has to give it right away. He doesn't have a deadline to give it. He has to give it right away. And then the next thing we learn is that someone who does go against the deadline, it's a sin every single day. And then the last thing is about the women, how women don't have the sin of ba'al ta'acher. Okay, why am I telling this to you? Because I'll tell you the beauty of what happened. By doing this, now as I'm just standing online, sitting on a red light of a car, I'm able to go through Gemara by heart in my mind. Not because I have crazy memory, but because I can remember these crazy stories. And through these crazy stories, I'm able to say, okay, this Gemara says this page has this. One decision of studying this now can give me this compounding impact of throughout the day I'm studying. In my mind, I'm just studying, right? So when you're sitting at a red light, what do you do when you're sitting at a red light? Now, this is something that I do. I take control. So now when I'm sitting at a red light, so this is one of the things that I've tried to do. Hopefully by the time of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, I want to go through all of Masechet Rosh Hashanah. Imagine going in. Okay, so this is my goal. One of the goals that I have for myself. The point is, you make a small decision of doing this, and now it has such a tremendous impact. You learn this from this Gemara. How the one decision of do I go here, do I go there, ends up having this compounding effect. So this is the words that I leave you off with. Try to be strategic of coming up with decisions. Let me go here, let me not go there. Let me go to the Beit Kenesset, because if I go to the Beit Kenesset, I'll be able to do this. Let me wake up early and go to the Beit Kenesset instead of doing that. You need to be strategic. And when you come to strategic, you make one decision. It's a mitzvah, goreret mitzvah. It'll cause you to do other mitzvah. Okay? With that, we'll stop. Have a great night, everyone. B'ezras Hashem. See you next week in good health.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Yeah.